Well, welcome, welcome, welcome. Assalamu alaikum. This is the 19th Element. I'm your host, Dr. Alim. This is the second half of the Survival Show. The first half being the Your Immunity Project that comes on Tuesdays at this very same time. So this is the second half of the Survival Show. We call it the 19th Element. It's always above the brow and never below the belt. We deal with geopolitical issues, economic issues, war and peace issues, the things that matter most in this world in which we live. We haven't really had to change the theme of our program since the first of the year. It's a world at war, a world gone crazy, a world gone broke. You could say a world gone for broke. So here we go. This is the 19th element. Let's get to it. So this is the 19th element. Started off with the Kush and the chromonauts. Nothing to lose. But we do have a lot to lose. We have the ability to build a new world unless we lose the chance. So let's take advantage of that chance. So this is the 19th element where the theme is building a new world. The second half of the survival show, the Your Immunity Project, it's already been loaded up on my YouTube channel. So if you missed it last night, it's always there on Dr. Alim YouTube channel. Now, of course, what's going on in the world, the backdrop to everything that's taking place, is something that was foretold by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad so many decades ago. He said, "Let the kings out of the east drive the river Euphrates." And that's exactly what you and I are seeing. The Strait of Hormuz is all in the news. And in fact, that is the choke point for the global economy. And Iran has both of their hands around the choke point, and choking the hell out of it. And America can't do anything about it. And so the kings of the East are exerting their force and their power that has lain dormant for centuries. This is actually the reemergence of the Persian Empire. And they're exerting their influence over the region in which they live, as they have done for centuries, as they have done for millennia. And of course, along with them, you have the Turks. They call it Turkiya now. And they, of course, represent the reemergence of the Ottoman Empire. So the kings of the East are exerting their force and their power over the nations of the earth. Now, this is just to remind you that on July the 4th, we convened the 9 Ministries Congress, a Congress of deliberative dialogue, to discuss the mounting problems and threats to the survival of the Black nation. And so we had many, many presentations, and we look forward to going forward with that progress, utilizing the wonderful tool of deliberative dialogue. Because how else does the nation of God rule itself? Through dictatorship, through tyranny, through democracy? No, the nation of Islam, or the nation of God, rules itself through deliberative dialogue. They consult with one another on the basis of equality, truth, freedom, and justice. Now, the deliberative dialogue has started. It's all over the internet. It's all over YouTube. People are sounding off with different viewpoints, different points of view. And so sometimes people are disturbed, by what people say. But I learned a long time. This is actually from Minister Don Muhammad, the great minister from Boston, Massachusetts, Mouse number 11. I think at one of the at one of the commission sessions, he made a remark that stuck with me all these many years. He said, "You can't stop people from talking. Try as you might, you cannot stop people from talking. But what you can do is you can determine what people talk about. So if you don't give them something to talk about, they'll talk about whatever they want to talk about. And so that's why it's better to organize the dialogue, organize the communication, organize it around a specific, potent, pertinent subject or topic or problem. And then that puts some discipline and puts some restraint and limitations on what people say. It would be illegitimate according to the rules of dialogue to speak off topic. So you have to name what the topic is. And if you don't name what the topic is, then guess what? You become the topic. They start gossiping on you. See, look at what the Muslims are doing. See, they're in dialogue. This happened last week, what the Muslims want and what the Muslims believe. So all of these things are being re-examined, and people are discussing them and they're expressing their points of view on all of these most important topics. Now, of course, I'm trying to express myself. So this is the launch of Abundant Life going virtual. Most people have heard of Abundant Life Clinic. It was established in 1986, 40 years ago. Yeah, time flies when you're having fun. And so Abundant Life Clinic established a great reputation as being a place where you could go and get good treatment, get an accurate diagnosis, and a very effective, safe, and acceptable nutritional plan of treatment based on the principles of how to eat to live. That's what we based our reputation on. And of course, the essence of our mission was always compassion, always putting ourselves in the shoes of the person who is suffering and experiencing, through the lens of compassion, what it must feel like to have diabetes, what it must feel like to have a stroke, what it must feel like to be blind, what it must feel like to be on renal dialysis. And then through that experience of compassion, we came up with solutions to most clinical problems. So what's wrong? What's wrong that you need help with? Let me know. Go to my website that's just been launched about 2 weeks ago on my birthday. It was a big birthday gift for me. dralim.net, not .com, .net, dralim.net. And there you will find some options available to you. If you have a real simple, straightforward problem, then you need the protocols. And there's probably one there already for you. Or I'll design one, if that's what is required. And then there's the system survey for more complicated issues where the diagnosis is not such a straightforward situation. And the ultimate diagnostic tool is the autonomic response test scan. And so go to the website, let me know what's wrong, fill out the new patient intake form. So that will give me enough background information to make the best recommendations so that you can achieve your health goals. And so the Your Immunity Project, the 19th element, the website, dralim.net, it's all about achieving the aims and purposes of Muhammad. And my lifelong dream, my career-long dream has been to have a hospital for Muhammad and be one of the doctors working in the hospital for Muhammad. So help us out if you can by supporting the website. And you can also help the hospital project with our GoFundMe account, GoFundMe/Your Immunity Project, and make your contribution there. So let me switch gears here just a second and get into more current headlines for the day. So here we go. So we're going to be all over the place today. Let's start here. No particular order. It's all interrelated. It's all taking place at the same time, in the same place on planet Earth, where you live, where I live. Now, here's a federal judge that was appointed by Donald Trump, I think in his first term. And he's made a ruling recently, I think down in Florida, that to be an American is to be a Zionist. Yeah, that's the new definition of what it means to be an American. If you are not a Zionist, then you're not a true American. Americans have become Zionists. And of course, what is a Zionist? A Zionist is a European colonialist that has invaded Palestine, and it has taken over a large percentage of the land mass of Palestine, and has displaced the people who actually belong there, and has murdered millions of them since the founding of the Zionist entity known as Israel in 1948. And so, even as we speak, there's a Zionist genocide being perpetrated against the Palestinian people in Gaza, where hundreds of thousands have already been murdered in the last 4 years. Genocide going on in southern Lebanon, even as far north as Beirut, where thousands upon thousands of Lebanese people, Christians and Muslims alike, are being driven from their homes, and their villages are being reduced to rubble, as you see from the pictures of Gaza. And that's the Zionist policy, to reduce homes, communities, neighborhoods, schools, hospitals, shopping areas, reduce them all to rubble, reduce the mosques to rubble, reduce the churches to rubble, and destroy the people in the process. Uproot the olive trees, uproot the crops, destroy the livestock, poison the water wells. That's the Zionist plot. That's the Zionist agenda. So to be an American is to be a genocidalist. To be an American is to be a mass murderer. To be an American is to be an international criminal, according to this federal judge. Here he is. Judge Roy Altman defends Israel against charges of colonialism, apartheid, and genocide. Well, I've been to Israel, and I can bear witness that it is an apartheid state. They don't even allow the Palestinians to travel on the same highways as Israelis. It's an apartheid state. That's why I think South Africa was first at bat to charge them with genocide and apartheid, because who better than South Africa to know what genocide and apartheid looks like? They know what it looks like. They know what it feels like. And so here's an American judge appointed by Donald Trump. And of course, Donald Trump, being a staunch American, he's a staunch Zionist. Don't you notice? The same policies that are being perpetrated by the Israelis in Gaza, in Syria, in Lebanon, those are the same policies that Donald Trump brings to the White House. Just like Israel wants to invade all of her neighbors. What does Donald Trump want to do? Invade all of her neighbors. So he's threatening Canada, threatening Cuba, threatening Greenland, threatening Mexico, threatening Venezuela, already overthrew the government in Mexico, threatening Colombia, threatening all of the South American nations that if they don't fall into line, then they will be invaded by American military force. Now, that's not the only thing going on. Look at this. A shocking survey finds that only 35% of women under the age of 25 have a positive view of men. And heteroflexible. Have you ever heard of that one? Heteroflexible is the fastest growing sexual orientation in America. So what's wrong with men that women under the age of 25 find them so objectionable? What has happened to men? Now look at this. Among Americans ages 18 to 29, there's an explosion in those who consider themselves to either be a lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual, queer, or what have you. And you can see that there's been an exponential growth. So it's not your imagination that you seem to be running into sexually deviant people more and more. No, that's the growing trend. Only 11.4% of men under the age of 30 identify as LGBTQ, but a whopping 31% of women under the age of 30 do. In other words, 31% of women under the age of 30 identify as lesbian. Women are nearly twice as likely as men to identify as LGBTQ. 10% of all women are identifying themselves as LGBTQ. A gap driven primarily by women's higher rates of bisexual identification. So I'm not going to read through all of this, but this has disturbing implications for any society. Every society that intends to thrive and survive uh, uh, has sanctions against and does not encourage homosexuality, because a healthy society is a growing society. A population that is not growing is an indication of future trouble for that society. That's what has happened in China. That's what has happened in Japan, where the population has stopped growing at a certain point. And then it's hard to start it once it has stopped and once it has slowed. Under normal circumstances, you can expect that at least 15% of married couples are infertile. They're infertile couples. So that means that the 85%, they have to have more than 2 children just to keep up with replacement of lost population. And so a growing population is full of married couples who give birth to more than 2 children, over their lifetime. And that keeps the population at a steady increase, which is a sign of health and a sign of a vibrant future. Because you're replacing the workers as they age with younger workers who bring more energy and sometimes more creativity to the situation. And so that drives the economic development of a society. But when men and women decide that they are no longer reproductive, that's not their aim in life, is to have families, then that is the breakdown of any society. And it means that there are not enough children being born to replace the adults that are already here. And so as the population ages and sickens and dies, then that society also dies. And so every society, every traditional society, has taken strong measures against homosexuality, because that actually means the death of that society in 1 or 2 generations. Not to mention the concurrent child abuse that homosexuality necessitates. Nobody's born homosexual. They become homosexual through sexual abuse as children. Britain's population replacement has passed a point of no return. Yeah, the actual English people, the Anglo-Saxon race, the white people of England, hey, they're in a minority now. If you go to London, London is black, just like Paris. This is not just Britain, this is all of Europe. The population replacement has passed a point of no return. And so Europe is being invaded, if you will, by people from Northern Africa and other parts of the world. Some of the former colonies, the people that grew up in those colonies that were run by France and Britain and other European countries, now they are migrating from those former colonies into the mother countries like England and France. And so that's why recently Bibi Netanyahu referred to England as the Islamic Republic of Britain, because the Muslim population is exploding in England. As a matter of fact, they say this past year, King Charles, he neglected to give an Easter address, but he gave an address for Ramadan and other Islamic observances. And so maybe Bibi Netanyahu's on to something. Maybe it is the Islamic Republic of Britain. Now, just last night on the Your Immunity Project, I said that measles was getting out of control. There were cases reported in Pennsylvania. And now 2 of those people have died of measles in Pennsylvania, in Lancaster County. And so measles is the great killer. Measles is what wiped out the Native Americans when Christopher Columbus touched shore in Hispaniola. Yes, smallpox was there too. Tuberculosis was there too. Syphilis was there, and of course, bayonets and swords and muskets. They were also there too, and contributed to death. Starvation was also used. All kinds of wickedness was used against the Native Americans. But what was the number one killer that did the most damage? Measles. So those who have gotten the measles vaccine as children, as young adults, they are at extreme risk of contracting measles, and measles in adulthood is no joking matter. Now, this was all in the news. The CIA director flew into Moscow on some secret mission. I guess it wasn't so secret if everybody's talking about it. Maybe the CIA doesn't know how to do anything in secret anymore. But CIA Director John Radcliffe has traveled to Moscow for undisclosed meetings. Now, the Russians were quick to point out that he's not meeting with Vladimir Putin. He might be meeting with the KGB, or whatever it's called nowadays. But keep your eyes on what's taking place there. Now, one of the things he might be concerned about, maybe not, but grain exports stall as Ukraine steps up attacks on Russia's Black Sea ports. And of course, Russia has destroyed Ukraine's Black Sea ports in Odessa and Nikolaev and other places. And so for many, many centuries, Ukraine has been the breadbasket of Europe. They have some of the richest soil in the world. They say in Ukraine, all you have to do is just spit and something will grow. And so it's been the breadbasket of Europe for centuries. And so that's where all of the bread that's eaten in France comes from. It comes from the wheat grown in Ukraine. And even in the Middle East and parts of Africa, they depend upon the grain that is grown in Ukraine. But now Ukraine has become a landlocked country because of their long distance strikes against Russia. Now Russia has sealed their borders. Now they can't export any grain. They can't export any steel, which is their other big economic product, steel and grain. And so now that's being bottled up. Well, what that means is just like the oil market is being strangled, now the food market is being strangled globally. And so this means famine in faraway places. Here's one of the cargo ships, in the Black Sea that would normally be transporting grain, but now it's under attack. Say, look at this, Lindsey Graham's sister, Darlene. Her name is Darlene, and she is a darling of an idiot. She couldn't even find Taiwan on a map. She couldn't answer the first question about anything. So she's probably about as dumb as her brother was. I don't know if she's as freakish as he was, but she certainly is as dumb as he was. He was dumb as a doornail. And I think the people of South Carolina deserve better. But in rigged politics, this is a family affair. So this is just like a royal family, where the seats of power and prestige are being passed from father to son, brother to sister, and all that kind of stuff. Look at Donald Trump's family dynasty that he's trying to establish. You see, so that's the way of American politics, that they do call democracy, rule of the people, but the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had it right again. He said it's not democracy, it's demon rule. That's what democracy means, demon rule. And what are you looking at? You're looking at the sister of a demon. So what do you think the sister of a demon is? Another demon. Now, of course, one of the most important issues of the day is safety, public safety, crime and punishment. The theme for Savior's Day was making our neighborhoods, making our communities a safe and decent place to live. Well, let's take a look at some of the places that are right now not safe or decent to live. And I hope you don't live in these places. Maybe you do, though, or you live close to them. I live close to some of them. So the 9 most dangerous cities in the U.S. The consequences of being in these places can be devastating if you don't know what to expect. And the thing that you should most expect in these cities that we're going to take a look at is to be violently assaulted. In a lot of these places, 10% of the population gets assaulted criminally every year. 10%. So at the top of the list is Baltimore, Midtown, Edmondson, Baltimore. It says blood dries quickly on Baltimore asphalt. By noon, most evidence of the previous night's carnage has already been hosed away by city workers or simply baked into the cracks by the merciless sun. But the ghosts remain. And so I'm not going to read, all of the text there. But basically, these are dangerous, dangerous places to be. And then we have Devonton, Indianapolis, Indiana. I thought Indianapolis was supposed to be hometown America. Indianapolis hides its rot well. From the gleaming Lucas Oil Stadium downtown, from the manicured suburbs of Carmel and Fishers, the city projects an image of Midwestern wholesomeness that would make Norman Rockwell weep with envy. But a dry 17 minutes east, watch the transformation. Watch civilization unravel like a cheap sweater snagged on barbed wire. Very poetic language. How about this? Back in Baltimore again, Broadway East, Baltimore. Look at this. Look at this. The 8.4% violent crime victimization rate. 8.4% of the residents of this city were victims of criminal activity within every year. Tulsa, Oklahoma, Lakeview Heights. Oklahoma hides its darkness behind sunsets, the state's carefully cultivated image, friendly, hardworking, fundamentally decent, crumbles when you reach Lakeview Heights. Here on the north side of Tulsa, the American dream curdled into something poisonous decades ago. This is not third world, this is America. And if you're an American, you're a Zionist. How about Oak Park, Northwest, Kansas City? Dangerous places in America. Crime-ridden, look at this. 8.3% violent crime victimization rate. Every year, 8% of the population gets attacked, gets mugged, gets robbed, gets assaulted, gets killed, gets shot, gets stabbed. And here we are back in Baltimore, Maryland again. 3 of the worst neighborhoods in America are in Baltimore City. So how would you make Baltimore a safe and decent place for people to live? I'm talking to the people in Baltimore. What are you doing about this? How are you making this safe and decent? Baltimore claims 3 of the 9 entries on the list, a distinction that should shame the city's leadership, but instead merely confirms what residents already know. Certain zip codes have been abandoned, left to rot, while resources flow elsewhere. Don't they have a black mayor? Since Kurt Schmoke, and they got, the city run by black folks. Why you treat your people so bad? How about North Indianapolis? Here's Annapolis on the list twice. Annapolis is as bad as Baltimore. Look at this. A victimization rate of 7.8% per year. It's not just in the north. How about in the south? Monroe, Louisiana, East Parkview. Same thing, 7.8% violent crime victimization rate. Oh, it looks nice, doesn't it? Sort of. Oxana, Anniston, Alabama. Now, this is a white neighborhood, so I'm understanding, but it's one of the most violent places in America. 7.5 violent crime victimization rate. So America is a violent society. It's falling apart, it's crumbling. So the violence that you see overseas, hey, that same violence is right here at home. When the defense minister in Israel, what's his name, Ben Gavir, says we want to kill 30 to 40 Palestinians every night. Well, how many black folks and other poor folks get killed every night in those neighborhoods that we just showed you? How many people are getting killed in Baltimore right now? Right now, as I speak, somebody's getting shot, stabbed, assaulted, robbed. Now, people trying to garden and farm, here's something to look out for. Industrial, human, and hospital waste. Inorganic so-called compost that you buy, on the market to put in your garden so you can grow your organic vegetables and tomatoes. But you better look at it. And it's so easy to do your own composting. So why would you put yourself in a position to be gypped like this? Now, don't forget, with the increased rate in deaths, there's an accumulation of bodies in funeral homes and morgues and hospitals. And so in some states, they have a program called liquid cremation. And liquid cremation means that they actually dissolve the body in strong lye and other chemicals, and then they dissolve the body into what they call a green sludge. So some of the sludge that is being used as organic compost, when they say is human waste, they're talking about human beings that were cremated with strong chemicals and reduced to a green sludge. So when you put that on your garden, you put that on your farm, you're actually putting human beings as fertilizer to grow your crops. Just thought you would like to know. Now, these are some of the headlines. We don't have time to touch on everything. Long COVID study finds persistent hypercoagulability and microclots. You know, the long clots that they pull out of people who took the shot, still going on, hadn't gone away. South Korea faces growing COVID-19 resurgence. Judge rules for doctor who prescribed ivermectin. Yay, somebody won something. Pennsylvania reports 2 measles deaths from Lancaster County. Yeah, that's where the Amish are. Florida, locally transmitted dengue cases reported in Citrus County. This didn't come from outside the country. It was locally transmitted. So it's here. Dengue is here. Here's Spain. Tuberculosis cases reported in Segovia. Afghanistan reports polio cases on the rise. Dengue outbreaks declared in the Marshall Islands. Plagues all over the world. Scientists warn of nearly 400% surge in toxic liver injuries. And 2 NIH researchers indicted for smuggling monkeypox DNA samples into the U.S. Here's a breakthrough. China's stem cell breakthrough for type 1 and type 2 diabetes promises an entire new era in treatment. Well, that's very promising. What if polio isn't really what we think it is? Well, I mean, actually, polio is a nutritional deficiency. Along with environmental stress, you can create polio, and no virus is needed. Now, how about this? Social media can be a really stupid place. We certainly know that's true. Full of really stupid people. You got that right. And increasingly, I fear there's nothing to do about it. Well, I think that's been our universal experience. Now, I forgot to load the image that goes with it, but a recent study, I mentioned it last night on the Your Immunity Project, from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, they showed that artificial intelligence leads humans into delusional mental states. It leads human beings to become delusional, to become mentally ill. Your interaction with artificial intelligence causes you to become mentally ill, delusional. And the scientists found out that even when people were warned that artificial intelligence could do that to them, it didn't make any difference. So to be forewarned was not to be forearmed. So if artificial intelligence makes human beings delusional, then how's that for a future? Speaking of artificial intelligence, here's something called Ox Alpha. Have you heard of that? Ox Alpha, a powerful, mysterious artificial intelligence model no one will admit to making, but it's out there and it's doing things and nobody knows where it came from. Maybe AI created it itself. A strange new AI system called Ox Alpha has created a storm of confusion among tech analysts and users alike. Nobody knows who made this model, which dropped on Open Router as an anonymous feed. So are you worried about artificial intelligence? I call digital intelligence Dajjal. That's the Antichrist. So should you be worried about the Antichrist? Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam said that the greatest fitna, the greatest trial for humanity would be Dajjal. So could Dajjal be digital intelligence? And could artificial intelligence be Dajjal, the Antichrist? And is that the greatest trial that humanity will ever face? Well, we're going to find out, aren't we? We're in the middle of it now. Cuba's president denounces U.S. pressure, says country will not surrender. Miguel Diaz-Canel rejects claims country is on the verge of collapse and accuses Trump administration of seeking to suffocate Cuba. Well, they certainly have been doing that. Almost as long as I've been alive. They've been strangling Cuba since 1959. And Cuba's still here. So this was announced yesterday, Economic D-Day by Donald Trump. This is a pure economic evil being perpetrated against Iran. What they really want to do is cut off all contact of all countries with Iran, complete isolation. They're calling any trade with Iran money laundering. Can you believe that? If you buy oil from Iran, they call that money laundering. And so they're determined to use economic measures to destroy Iran through what they call Operation Economic Outcast. But it's backfiring because who are the number one customers doing business with Iran? China, Russia, the UAE, and even the European powers. So now America is going to sanction Russia? You're going to sanction China? You're going to sanction your European allies just because they need to buy Iranian oil? What a stupid move this is. And so you're right, Donnie, you're the outcast. Now here's some news that caught my attention. This lady claims to be the oldest human being on planet Earth at 117 years old. I wonder if that's true. A British woman believed to be the oldest living human. Happy birthday. 117 is not bad. So now everybody's talking about the data centers because they're building hundreds of them, not just in this country, all over the world. And so these data centers are necessary to serve the interests of the big tech oligarchs from Silicon Valley, like Peter Thiel and Palantir, Elon Musk, of course, Larry Ellison, Sam Altman. They run these big tech companies. And of course, these are surveillance programs that they're running to spy on everybody. And in order to spy on everybody, you need big data centers to process all that information. And so they're setting up these data centers all over the country, and these data centers eat up so much electricity and so much water that is causing rises in utility bills that people can't afford anymore. And so it's coming down to who's going to get the electricity, who's going to get the power, who's going to get the water. Is it going to be the computers or the people? And so this is a big, big controversy. Of course, Donald Trump, he did two things on Inauguration Day. He had all the big tech oligarchs come to the White House and he promised them $500 billion of taxpayer money to build these data centers. That's where the money's coming from. You're paying for it. On top of the high utility bills that you're experiencing now. You're paying for the data center. You're paying for your surveillance. You're paying to be spied on. and to be tracked. So 2026 is going to be the first year in human history where humanity as a whole is below replacement fertility. This is what we were talking about before, the depopulation agenda. This has never happened before. And so, yes, war is taking its share of people. Famine is taking its share. Pestilence is taking its share. And death is taking its share. But who's the other rider on the pale horse of death? Liberal white women who now profess to be, what was that, hetero flexible. But whatever they call themselves, they don't want to have a baby. And if they get pregnant, they're going to have an abortion. So here's some breakthrough news. In Gary, Indiana, homes are without power for the last 2 weeks. They've been out of power for at least 2 weeks. But guess what's staying on? The data centers. 2 weeks without power in blistering heat. Now, here's one of the countries that's affected by the lack of grain coming out of Ukraine. And Afghanistan is not the only country. But in this one country, 1 million children are at risk of dying from hunger. So these are the real Hunger Games taking place. Remember those movies? But this is not a movie. This is real life and real death. And so millions of people around the world are in danger of dying from hunger because of what's taking place in Ukraine and what's taking place in Iran. And all of it is unnecessary. The worst international crime, of course, is wars of aggression. So America and Israel are guilty of wars of aggression, unprovoked wars against against other nations. And so they are the number one criminals. And of course, the consequences of their criminality is famine. They're destroying the world economy, driving for their criminal goals. Now, here's someone saying that AI, artificial intelligence, won't replace everyone, but people using AI may. Yeah, probably the technology is neutral. Any bias that's in the AI is coming from the people who invented it and who use it. And so if the bias of the people who are the titans of artificial intelligence is depopulation, guess what they're going to use AI to do? To depopulation the planet. And that's exactly what is taking place, isn't it? And the more you use artificial intelligence yourself, the more delusional you become about the reality that you're living in. So here's the global split. Here's what it all breaks down to. On one side, you have the Western Bloc, and then on the other hand, you have the BRICS alliance. BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. They were the original countries that formed this new alliance. Now, I think they're up to about 50 countries. I'm not quite sure what the actual number is right now. But the majority of the countries in the world are members of BRICS, which is under the direct leadership of China and Russia. And then on the other side, you have the old Western alliances, the Western Bloc. These are the colonial powers, the imperial powers of Europe and America. This is the dollar system. And so the dollar system has been weaponized with these sanctions all of these years. And so they've used debt as a weapon to destroy countries and to prevent the development in certain parts of the world. And so the BRICS policy is quite different. It's all about development. It's all about trade. And so many of the countries that they now call the global South, those are the poor nations in South America, Central America, Africa, and Indo-Asia, and other places like that. They are joining the BRICS alliance because it offers them a better opportunity. They can actually trade in their own currency. They don't need the US dollar. They can buy oil in their own currencies or use the Chinese yuan. And so that's what it's all about. Who is going to ultimately dominate in the global economy? Is it going to continue to be the Western Bloc? Is America still going to be the dominant economic power with currency reserve status, global currency reserve status? or is there a shift taking place? Well, I think it's very clear that the Western Bloc is in decline, is in bankruptcy, is in economic distress. The dollar is collapsing. The dollar is breaking up. The IMF, the World Bank, all of those institutions, the Federal Reserve Bank, they're in trouble. America, it has an unpayable $40 trillion debt, and Europe is right behind her with unpayable limits of debt or amounts of debt, where China is debt-free. The BRICS nations are largely debt-free. Russia is debt-free. Why are they debt-free? Because they're not in the American system. They're not in the Rothschild banking system. That's why they hate Iran, because they kicked the Rothschild bankers out. They hate Putin because he kicked the Rothschild bankers out of Russia. And the Chinese never let them in. And so that's why they're free of debt. And that's why they are surging in productivity, surging in economic development. And so the rest of the world is now making a choice in the direction of BRICS and that new financial bloc. They're doing business on a gold-based basis. And so that is the global shift in economic power. More on that in the future, as we shall see. So Meta, that's Mark Zuckerberg's conglomerate that runs Facebook and all the rest of it, the metaverse. Meta means false, So they had to pay out millions of dollars because they found out that social media harms children. That's why a lot of countries are making it illegal for social media for children to actually be on social media. In some countries, they're putting it up to like age 16 or 18 before you can log on to social media, because it's known to cause mental disturbances in the mental development of children and the emotional development of children. I mentioned that MIT studies that shows that artificial intelligence makes people delusional, even if you're an adult. Now tomorrow, there's going to be a lunar eclipse that's going to be seen in many parts of the world, and people attach great significance to that. They call this the blood moon. Because of the partial nature of the eclipse, it gives a reddish glow to the full moon. So look for it tomorrow night. I think if you're on the East Coast, you should be able to see it. Or anywhere you can see the moon, you'll be able to see it. Whether you will see it in totality may differ depending on where you are. Former IMF executive director, how likely is the RMB, the renminbi, the Chinese yuan, some say yuan, but it's yuan, the renminbi. That means renminbi means people's money. That's what that means. Renminbi in Chinese means people's money. And so how likely is it that the people's money is going to replace the dollar? And so it looks like that's taking place already. It's a foregone conclusion that the dollar is collapsing. The dollar has been the global reserve currency for about 70 years. And if you look at history, you see that's about as long as any global currency has ever lasted, about 70 years. Then it crumbles and falls away and gets replaced by something else. So now Turkey has given a red notice to Interpol, the International Police of Europe, pointing the finger at Bibi Netanyahu as being guilty of genocide and crimes against humanity. So now, because of the status of Turkey, this has to be taken seriously. It means that all of those that have an agreement with Interpol have an obligation to arrest Bibi Netanyahu if he sets foot on their territory or flies through their airspace. So that means Bibi Netanyahu basically is in quarantine. He's in exile. He actually can't move. Even if he comes to the United States, there are law enforcement agencies that are duty bound to arrest him. So that's a move made by Turkey. Now this I don't understand. I know Donald Trump is building a ballroom, but I didn't know that Saudi Arabia and France had agreed on a $6 billion project in Paris to build what they call a Dragon Ball Z theme park? Dragon Ball Z theme park. What is that? Can somebody tell me what that is? I don't even know what that is. But it made me think of Donald Trump's ballroom, his golden ballroom that he's talking about. And people talking about ballroom dancing and things like that. What's this on the ball? I mean, I'm not up on this. Somebody bring me up to date on this. I don't understand. What's a dragon ball? What's all this about balls? Is that Baal? Is that the pagan god Baal? Is that how you pronounce that? Baal? I say Baal. Maybe it's Baal. It's a ballroom for Baal. I don't know. Brace for the dollar's crash. See, that's Jimmy Dore. He's all over the YouTube. And he has great guests that actually make these predictions. And they're seeing what's taking place. Pre-brace yourself for the dollar's crash. It cannot be sustained. So if your bank account is in dollars, if your investments are in dollars, your pension fund is in dollars, prepare and brace for the crash. What wise people are doing is they are taking their investments, their savings out of dollars, and they're putting them into gold, silver, or other investments other than the dollar. In fact, some are investing in the Chinese currency, the renminbi. And so what are you doing to brace yourself for the crash of the dollar? Since we live in the belly of the beast and we have no choice about it, we are all caught up in the network of the dollar system. So what are you doing to brace for the dollar's crash? When it crashes, what happens to your ability to pay for groceries, to pay your rent, to pay your car note, to pay for insurance and health care and all the necessities of life? How would you brace yourself for the dollar's crash? Are you braced yet? See, part of what's taking place is the liberating of the Muslim mind. All over the world, the Muslims have been asleep for at least 500 years. I mean, ask any scholar that's looked at history. The Muslim world went to sleep at least 500 years ago. That's how we ended up in slavery 400 years ago, because the Muslim world was asleep and could not protect itself, could not protect us from the invaders, from the marauders, from the slavers. And so will we wake up from this 500-year slumber where Europe and America, the Christian powers of the world, have taken the lead in civilization, and the Muslim world just lagging behind, left in the dust? Well, of course, the liberating of the Muslim mind is the purpose of the coming of Master Fard Muhammad. That's the mission of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, to liberate the Muslim mind. Most of the Muslims, like us, we didn't even know we were Muslims. So the first step in liberating our minds is to inform us of who we are. We are Muslims by nature. We are the righteous by nature. And then, of course, the fundamental knowledge that any Muslim must have is who is God and who is the devil. So liberating the Muslim mind is a matter of teaching the Muslims who God is and who the devil is. A lot of the problems that they're having over there in the Middle East, in the so-called Islamic world, is only because they still don't know the reality of God and they still don't know the reality of the devil. So they're mystified by God and taken advantage of by the devil because they just don't know. So whose responsibility is it for liberating the Muslim mind? It's the responsibility of those who have been given the mission by Master Fard Muhammad and his messenger Elijah Muhammad. If the Muslim mind is not liberated, it's our fault, because we didn't give them the teachings of liberation. Now, here's something that people need to know. A big fault unlock has begun. Uh-oh, California, here comes the big one. People have been talking about this for decades. And so now the seismologists are saying, hey, it looks like it's about to take place. They're having swarms, literally hundreds of small quakes every day, hundreds and hundreds of earthquakes taking place every day. Most of them, so small that you can't feel them, but it means that there's a great movement taking place underground in preparation for the big one. See, the dialogue has begun. Everywhere I turn on YouTube and other social media platforms, here's somebody here's a picture of Master Fard Muhammad. Here's somebody giving a presentation on the problem book. I haven't listened to all of these things. I'm just pointing out the fact that the dialogue has begun. People cannot stop talking about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They cannot stop talking about Master Fard Muhammad. That seems to be the most important topic of all. Look at this. Here's another one. 31 days of Elijah, the December fast. See, that's been controversial lately. People talking about why don't you all fast during the month of Ramadan like the rest of the Muslims? Well, here's what the messenger said. I have chosen for quite a few years the month of December for my followers to fast as in the month of Ramadan. It serves as a sign that we, the lost found nation, are the end of all signs pertaining to the pilgrimage and fasting in the month of Ramadan. We fast the 12th month of the Christian year to relieve ourselves of having once worshiped that month as the month in which Jesus was born. So that should settle that. Why we do what we do. We're not trying to be like you. Yeah, the mega quake is coming. The quake that will reshape America. What did Alim Muhammad say a quake was going to do to America? He said it was going to cut America, he's going to split America in half. At one point, he said the west coast of America will be around Chicago. The rest of it is going to fall off into the Pacific Ocean. We shall see, won't we? Now, here's what the people are waking up to. See, if to be an American, you have to be a Zionist. That's what the judge said. To be an American is to be a Zionist. And so what does that mean? That means that Israel rules America. Israel has conquered America. Israel has taken over America. Didn't they just announce that the U.S. and Israeli militaries are going to merge or have merged? Well, if they are just announcing that, that means it's already occurred. It's already happened. It's already an actual fact. Who's actually committing Gaza, the genocide in Gaza, if it's not Americans and Israelis together? What's the difference between them? The difference in uniforms, but they're carrying out the same mission. You see, so Israel rules America. Bibi Netanyahu is more popular and more powerful in America than Donald Trump. And so if America wants to take the country back, I guess they have to become un-Zionists. They have to become anti-Zionists. Otherwise, your goose is cooked. Now, I just showed this to announce the new book out by my friend and colleague. Actually, I went to college with Gerald Horne, Dr. Gerald Horne, famous historian. I guess he's written about 50 books. So if you're a history buff, you want to know the history of our people, hey, look up Gerald Horne. And he has it all covered, has all bases covered. So his new book is entitled Slavery, the Slave Trade, and the Roots of U.S. Imperialism. Yeah, we attended Antioch College together. Then he went on and got a law degree and other things like that. Great scholar. The final war has started. That's our theme. The world at war, world gone crazy, world gone broke. And these are the players. Now, one of the things, that people have their eyes on is what's taking place at Al-Aqsa Mosque, the third most holy shrine in Islam. The Israeli settlers have stormed it. Last week, they stormed the Al-Aqsa Mosque and they held Jewish religious services inside Al-Aqsa Mosque. Some people say that they have planted explosives in the foundation of Al-Aqsa Mosque, and at a certain time, they're going to detonate those explosions and collapse the mosque. And they're going to blame it on an earthquake or something like that. And then in the rubble of Al-Aqsa, they want to build what they call Solomon's third temple. So these are all signs of the end times. What would happen if they blew up Al-Aqsa Mosque? What would the Islamic world do? Now, about a year ago, I after all these years, I finally got a hold of an Ethiopian Bible. I haven't studied it as well as I need to, but you find some wonderful, wonderful things that were missing from the King James Version of the Bible. I mean, King James, it was 66 books in the King James Version of the Bible? I think that's right. Only got 66 books. I think the Ethiopian Bible has, is it 81? I think 81 books. So you have a lot of missing scripture in the King James Version. And of course, one of the most important things has to do with the mission of Imam Isa, or Nabi Isa. They call him Jesus. So pick up the Ethiopian Bible and find out what the Ethiopians have to say happened to Jesus and what his mission was all about. They never heard of King James in Ethiopia. You think you quoting the Bible, you quoting King James, the demonologist. Remember, he wrote a book on demonology before he translated the Bible. He was a demonologist. That's why the Bible, the King James Version of the Bible, is like a magic spell. Master Farad Muhammad called it a poison book and warned us against it. So maybe if you got the Ethiopian Bible, that would help you. Depression is coming. He looks like he's mentally depressed, but he's actually talking about economic depression. Because if this closure of the Strait of Hormuz goes on, they say last weekend only 20 vessels or less passed through the Strait of Hormuz. Well, on any given day in the past, 120, 130, 140 vessels would pass every day. Now you only have 20 over the whole weekend. So that means that there's a drought of oil and fertilizer and helium and sulfur and other essential products that flow out of that part of the world. And if the nations can't get it, then their economies shut down, factories shut down, people become unemployed, and economic depression hits the entire world. And so the experts are saying that what is on the way and what is already beginning is going to be worse than anything that's ever happened in the history of the world. What is getting ready to happen in the latter part of 2026 and 2027 is worse than the Great Depression of the 1930s. And Robert Kiyosaki ought to know. Everybody looks at him as a great expert. And many people got rich following his advice 20 or 30 years ago. Now he's issuing a warning. So is this the rise of the black man that's taking place? Do we have to have a fall of the white man's civilization before the rise of the black man can take place? But suppose the white man's civilization just falls under its own weight. Would that automatically bring about the rise of the black man? Or does the black man have to rise himself up? See, why don't you think about that? Do you think the rise of the black man depends on the fall of the white man? Or do you think that the rise of the black man depends on the black man and the black man's God? And if you realize that you have a responsibility in producing the rise of the black man, then what exactly did you do today to produce the rise of the black man tomorrow? What are you planning to do to bring about the rise of the black man? Or are you just a spectator watching the fall of the white man? Next image, please. Oh, I'm in control. Look at this. See, all over the internet. Look at this. Somebody put up this documentary. Behold, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. It's a documentary. I haven't seen it. I just ran across it. I don't have time to look at all this stuff. But it's like a flood of the wisdom teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I would say to people nowadays, you have greater access to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad today in 2026 than we ever had prior to 75. We didn't have all this information. We heard the Honorable Elijah Muhammad exactly one time a year as Savior's Day. Now you can listen to him every day. They got the Theology of Time on YouTube. You got all of it, all of the Savior's Day lectures going back even into the 50s. You ought to listen to a lecture he gave in Newark, New Jersey, 1959. It's on YouTube. And so you can get caught up with the basic root teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. You don't have to be confined to these derivative teachings that people like to put out nowadays. They don't go to the root. They're out on a branch somewhere with some derivative from the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But your and my salvation rests upon a deep-rooted knowledge in the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So go get it for yourself. It's right there. Go get it. And you'll hear the teachings in his own voice. A lot of the modern-day Muslims, they don't even recognize the voice of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I have a goddaughter. I played the tape of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. She said, "Who is that?" Born in the nation. She didn't even recognize the voice of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad because she had never heard it. Nobody ever played the Honorable Elijah Muhammad for her. So this is some of the Lego videos that come out of Iran and other places. And they're really brilliantly done. So again, they're all over YouTube and other places as well. So the idiot is exposed. And see, that's what's taking place. Who are the real idiots today? You know, who are the real idiots? Who are the real madmen? Who are the real psychopaths? See, all that's being exposed by what people say and by what people do. And they're all over the place. You can't hide it nowadays. If you are an idiot, everybody can see, everybody can tell. Everybody can tell. Everybody can see you. You cannot hide today. You cannot hide your idiocy. You cannot hide your ignorance. You cannot hide your incompetence. You cannot hide your lack of accomplishments today. You are exposed. Alim Muhammad called this the manifestation of defects. The manifestation of defects. And that's what we're looking at. So the generals are on Trump. Look, man, you might be the commander in chief, but you're one of the top idiots. And the idiotic things that you're doing, hey, you're getting ready to take us into World War III. And some would say we're already in it. Because how can you get out of what's taking place in Europe already? How can you back out of Ukraine? You said you're going to stop the war in 24 hours. Well, here we are 2 years into your administration. Have you stopped it yet? Or are you deeper into it than ever? And you didn't even have to start the war with Iran, but you did it because you're an idiot. You're incompetent. You're a fool. But you're being blackmailed by the Epstein files and your guilt associated with the Epstein files and the nasty things that you and your wife did. And so you're taking the world to World War III because of your sinfulness. Excuse me. I'm trying to remember a word. Perfidy. Have you ever heard the word perfidy? Do you know what perfidy is? Perfidy is what Donald Trump is guilty of. Perfidy is a crime against international law. Do you know what perfidy is? Perfidy is when you sit down with people to negotiate a peace agreement and then attack them in the process. Sneak attack them while they're negotiating, while their guard is down. Then you hit them, in a sneak attack. Well, that's what Donald Trump and Israel did twice to Iran. So basically the policy is to use peace negotiations as a cover for a bombing mission that's on the way. And then you call it peace talks. So China says Iran is our number one source of oil. You telling us that we got to sanction our number one customer? We're going to sanction you like they did before. Remember the rare earth thing? Trump had to pull back those maximum sanctions against China. Well, I think that's our last image for this evening. Let me see if that is correct. I think that might be correct. But I just want to find something else real quick before I can let you go. So here we go. Yeah, I just want to remind you of the 20% discount for those who need the autonomic response test scan. So visit the website. You need some help with something, I'm sure. All this going on, some of it has affected you. So tell me what's wrong. I'm sure we can help. It may just be a simple protocol that you need, maybe the system survey, maybe the the autonomic response test scan. So that's the ultimate in diagnosis and treatment. So check me out, Dr. Alim at dralim.net. My email, if you want to contact me in that way, is right there, Dr. Alim at protonmail.com. So that just about does it for our evening's program. Let me get that up on the screen so you can see it on YouTube. So take a screenshot of that if you will. So once again, I want to thank you for being with us. This has been the second half of the Survival Show. We call it the 19th Element. And it's all about the geopolitical issues of the day, the war and peace issues, the economic issues, the things that have a bearing on your and my existence. So don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to share. Let's go out with the Chromonauts. Join us Sunday and Monday with prayer and fasting, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on both Sunday and Monday. Spiritual lecture on Sunday, and hereafter questions and answers on Monday.